For more than a year, we've been telling you about PFAS chemicals, which have been linked to several diseases in humans and which don't ever break down, giving them the nickname forever chemicals. Good evening, I'm Pat Callahan.
And I'm Amanda Hill in for Cindy Williams. The stories mostly had to do with individuals or neighborhoods saying they'd been exposed to PFAS. But this week, the state reported that the water supplies of entire towns are showing signs of PFAS contamination.
Here's News Center Maine's Shannon Moss.
The report from Maine CDC handed to the governor's PFAS task force said it found the so-called forever chemical in the water supplies of 9 out of 19 water systems tested so far this year. Among them, Lisbon Falls, Livermore Falls, Mexico, Sanford, Topsham, and Arundel. The samples were taken mostly at schools, water treatment plants, and mobile home parks. And of the 9 communities where PFAS was found, the highest concentrations were found at the Lisbon Water District, the Pejepsket School in Topsham, and the Georgetown Central School. But all were well below the 70 parts per trillion limit the EPA recommends. PFAS chemicals have been linked to low birth weight, high cholesterol, thyroid disease, and certain types of cancer. We asked Mike Beliveau of the Environmental Health Strategy Center how the chemicals are ending up in those water supplies.
These chemicals have been widely used and are still used in our state, not only at paper mills for making grease-resistant food packaging, but also in firefighting foams at airports, but even in floor waxes that are used in school gymnasiums that can run off and contaminate the well.
The cows didn't ask for this.
Governor Mills formed the task force after this farmer helped Belevau's group sound the alarm last winter. Fred Stone and his wife Laura ran a dairy farm in Arundel on land he said he couldn't farm anymore because the bio sludge from paper mills and sewer districts that he spread on his fields for decades contaminated the hay he fed his cows, as well as the milk they produced.
The levels that I have, I'm very concerned about my wife and my daughter. I mean, and my cows.
The Stones also say tests showed they had 30 times the federal limit of PFAS chemicals in their blood. The sludge came from local sewer districts and paper mills that paid Stone and other farmers to dump it on their fields as fertilizer. As for these latest water test results, Bellevue says they're indicators of a much bigger problem that needs to be addressed.
Unfortunately, Maine has no enforceable drinking water standards, and we should. And we're hopeful that the state will step up and make some safety determinations that will drive down the exposure to these chemicals.
But there may be pushback on those statewide standards. During this latest round of water testing by Maine CDC, more than a dozen local water districts declined to let their water be tested for PFAS. Shannon Moss, News Center, Maine.
The task force that got the report from the Maine CDC is set to hand over to the governor its report on how to combat PFAS contamination. One proposal that most members seem to be getting behind: expanding testing of both public and private drinking water sources, and eventually requiring all community water systems with 25 or more people on them to be monitored for PFAS.